Hello, everybody. Welcome on in. It's Betting Weekly Game Bet Match. It's your number one tennis betting podcast and YouTube show brought to you in association with Bet Rivers, your hometown sportsbook. I am Nigel Seeley. Different surroundings, different room, but same place. Still here in Dubai, waiting to get home, back to the UK, to see my old mucker, Sean Calvert, who is sitting in his bunker, fully protected, trying to find us the winners at the Indian Wells Tournament for tomorrow. How are you, mate?
I'm fine, thank you. Yeah, I'm in my bunker, if you want to call it that, in my garden office. Sun is shining. It's actually not bad. Just waiting for you to come back and set foot on the shores of Blighty, which hopefully will be very soon.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a waiting game. It's a waiting game. You wait here. It's like you buy your raffle tickets and hopefully you get the call, your winning number, and when you get your winning number, you go and collect your prize. That's how it feels at the moment. But anyway, we're soldiering on. We're here. We're doing a show. Unfortunately, the sound quality, obviously, on the show is not as good because I can't get the internet. I can't get my microphone, my system plugged in. But we're trying to give you some winners. The first show of the week we give you some big outright picks and we gave you some selections. But I tell you what, I haven't watched the tennis. Can't watch the tennis. But I'm going to tell you a story in a minute. But about
fortunate.
I can't watch the tennis. But I tell you one thing I did. I looked at the results and looked at the figures from our match bets picks. We were bloody unlucky, weren't we?
We've had some pretty rum luck on the match bets in the last sort of month or so, really. A little bit unlucky last night. I wouldn't say massively. We've had some ridiculous bad luck in previous weeks. Those two last night, a little bit unlucky. Bellucci should have won the first set against Diallo. He was in command of the tiebreak, 3-love and 4-1, and then made a ton of mistakes. He talked about it after the match, actually. Bellucci he was saying he should have done better in certain situations. If he'd have won that set, he would have thought he would have gone on to win the match. As it happens, he lost it, and then you're in a difficult situation. Similar with Mannarino, won the first set, should have won it very, very comfortably. Won the first set, ended up losing 7-5 in the third against Berrettini. It was some effort from Berrettini, to be fair to Berrettini. It was some effort to come back from that situation, and a big effort. He was cramping at the end, Berrettini as well. So, yeah, a little bit unlucky, but you find the value. It doesn't always win. You need a little bit of luck as well, but we soldier on.
A couple of people stranded out here today. I found someone who works for Wimbledon tennis breakfast department, and she was chatting to me. She knew about all the ATP tour players stuck out in Dubai. She knew all the stories about that. And there's a tennis court, the hotel tennis court across the road. And in there today was, I can't remember his name, you'll know, but I'm losing days and names and stuff like that. You asked me a week ago, I'll tell you his name. Do you remember the Korean player who used to wear glasses, who got Chung?
Yeah, Hyun Chung, yeah.
He's playing. He's at my resort playing on the tower. I don't know if he lives here because there's residency here, or he's stuck here, but he's practicing on the courts across the road from where I am.
Well, there was a challenger, wasn't there, in that area where you are that was cancelled. They cancelled it mid-tournament. Maybe he was playing in that. I don't know, because he's had so many injury problems. His career is virtually wrecked by injury. Made the Australian Open semi-final, didn't he? Him and Kyle Edmund, actually. They both made the semis, didn't they? I think it was the same year. And both of them really had their careers, I wouldn't say ended in Chung's case, but massively derailed by injury. Chung hasn't really been seen at what I'd call a good level for quite a few years now, which is a shame because he was a real promising player, as was Kyle Edmund. So it just shows you the sort of fickle nature of this sport. Both had their careers, pretty much decimated by injuries.
Well, the one thing we did today to try to keep us busy during the day, we had a tennis tournament. I drew him in round one. He won the tour. He's going to get a gold medal at the reception tonight in the lobby. I got beaten in round one by Chung. No, I'm only joking anyway. It's only joking. But he's here, so in practice. During the day, you can go about at night, you sort of bunker up. Anyway, we are here for the tennis. We're here for Indian Wells. It's a big tournament. It's the 5th tennis major. We were talking in the previous show about the conditions and how the statistics come through that didn't really back up your feeling, how you thought the tournament would go. We've seen a set of matches now. What does your magic machine and your figures tell you about how the conditions are this week in Indian Wells?
Yeah, it looks pretty much the same to me. Maybe a fraction quicker, but not hugely so. I mean, the new balls, the new Dunlop balls that they're using here this year probably react slightly differently to the Penn ones. The old Penn ones, maybe that's just the difference. The players haven't mentioned any difference. I'm sure Medvedev will within 5 minutes of him arriving. I'm sure he'll have some things to say. But on the naked eye, it's not easy from the TV. I always find Indian Wells a bit easier to watch and get a level on from courtside, where you can really see the grittiness of the court and the way the balls fluff up and the way it bounces. It doesn't look massively quicker to me. I'd say it was pretty similar. I'm sure, in the next couple of days, some players, once the bigger names come in and start playing their matches today, tomorrow, they'll tell us a bit more, but it doesn't look overly different to me. One thing that I mentioned in the show on Sunday, which is relevant to today and probably tomorrow as well, is that there is a very big trend for straight sets wins in this round 2, going back many, many years. 71% of the matches in the last 12 editions in round 2 have ended in straight sets. So if you are a bettor that does get involved in set betting, it's a pretty strong trend. It's 71% of the matches finish in straight sets. So yeah, good trend there to have.
And we have a decent sized favourite to get involved in round 2. Now this is round 2 where the Seeley players, the 32 players, get involved in the tournament, and we have them in the tournament, and they have the people who got through from the first round. So the first matchup is a very, very interesting matchup in round 2. A decent matchup as well. Jakub Mensik, who is showing some signs of the form that made him win the title in Miami last year. Obviously, he's got Miami in a couple of weeks to defend, and that must got to be a priority. All those points he's got to defend. He's minus 278 to beat Mensik-Giron, plus 215. Spread here is 3.5. 22.5 is the game. So if we're looking at set betting here, Mensik is minus 109 to win this to 2 sets of love. If you want to get that 2 sets of love trend, there is a load of markets available on the BetRivers website. And the head-to-head is 1-0 in favour of Jakub Mensik. He won in 2025 at Wimbledon, winning this match 3 sets to 1. And there was 42 games in that best of 5 sets. Mensik, always good for over sets, 1.5. But I suppose you'll look at Mensik and think, is he looking at those points he's got to defend next week in Miami rather than this week here in Indian Wells?
Yeah, I think conditions favour him a bit more there than they do here. This looks a short price to me on Jakub Mensik. I wouldn't be playing the 2-0 Mensik here. I certainly hope it doesn't come in, because I'm kind of going the other way. Not 2-0 Giron, but opposing Mensik in some way. I just think it's a big advantage here for Marcos Giron, having played one match in these tricky conditions already. Mensik coming in cold. He's not played for 10 days. Okay, he's been hitting here or whatever, but it's not the same as the match court. And it depending on what court he's hitting on and then what court he plays on, there can be a massive difference. Berrettini talked about it last night. The difference between, I think he was on Stadium 2, Berrettini, Stadium 1 or 2, and he practiced on the outside courts, and the difference is huge, particularly if you've got a night match as well. Giron showed against Navoni that it takes time to adapt to these Indian Wells conditions, and it's a tough opener for Mensik, and he is unproven so far in these unique conditions. If you look at the Indian Wells records, Giron, pretty good win rate, 57% win rate here. Service points won and return points won, total of 98. Mensik has only played, I think, 4 matches. He's won half of them, 50% win rate, and his total is 98.5. Very similar set of statistics. Giron played a lot more matches and won a few more. Giron made the last 16 actually last year. Beat Casper Ruud, beat Basilashvili, beat Popyrin. Ended up losing in a final set tiebreak to Artur Fils. And we've bet him a few times this season. Giron, again, a little bit unlucky with him. I think we lost in the semi-finals with him in Auckland, which was unfortunate. But he's been in great form generally this season. He's also got Andre Agassi in his corner at the minute, which is probably a good sign for him. I feel like Agassi was there with him when he won the title in Newport a couple of years ago. He's not a full-time coach by any means, but they're quite good friends, and they've spoken a lot about tennis over the years, and he has been in his corner several times. Agassi, he's there right now. I think Giron said something like, having lost the first set to Navoni, he said, I can't lose this match because I've got Agassi watching, and he ended up winning it. If we look at what he's done at main level this season, Giron, 62% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 102. It's very good. Mensik is better, hence the odds. 77% win rate and a total of 104.6 for Mensik, which is very good indeed, and that's where the odds come from. But again, Mensik, looking deeper into those stats, he's relying very heavily on that first serve again, or still. 79% of those points won for Mensik, only 47% of second serve points won. And if you're in Indian Wells, first serves don't get you as far as at other venues like Miami and slicker, quicker conditions, Dubai or whatever. He's obviously defending next week. I'm not saying he's going to 100% prioritize Miami, but I think if he loses early, I don't think it'll be an absolute disaster for him. I just think this tournament, you need to be a good returner as well. Not that Mensik is a poor returner, but the second serve points aren't good. If you look at the head-to-head, it's only that one match, as you said, at Wimbledon on grass, of course, but it shows, again, Mensik relying very heavily on first serve. 80% first serve points won in that match. Only 40.8 second serve points won in that match. Giron won 51.5% of second serve points. So it was Giron that was the one that was the better from the back of the court in that match, and it's the worry with Mensik. It's too heavily reliant on the first serve. That was on grass, of course, where you can get away with being so serve dominated a bit more. But here, much slower, much bouncier, much grittier, tougher to rely on first serves. Windy as well. I didn't mention the conditions, actually. The weather on Friday, 25 degrees and 12-mile-an-hour wind. It does get a bit swirly here. By the way, the weather, as soon as it gets towards the final, I think Friday, Saturday, Sunday, it's going to be about 37 degrees. A real heat wave in Indian Wells as the time moves on. But 25 degrees tomorrow. If we look at what Giron's done against top 20 opponents in recent times, it's impressive. He's taken a set at least in 8 of his last 10 matches against top 20 opponents. And he does look a bit of value on the side markets. He tends to lose tight matches, Giron, particularly against the better players. But I think there's 2 ways to attack this. Half a point on each here. Opening set to him, opening set to Giron, which is plus 170, I think, with Bet Rivers. And half a point on the game spread, the plus 3.5 game spread, which I think that's been nibbled in, actually. It's minus 124 now. It was minus 105, I think, when I looked at earlier. But yeah, I think those are the 2 ways to attack this. If Mensik does win it 2-0, I'll be impressed.
Yeah, he's got a lot to live up to next week. A lot of points to defend. Mensik-Giron with the legend Andre Agassi in his corner. We think he's going to put up a fight on the set 1 and the handicap as well at 3.5. We have a battle between 2 Americans in the next match. Jenson-Brooksby against Francis Tiafoe. Jenson-Brooksby did well here in Dubai, a player I oppose in pretty much every round, and he won every round. I thought it would be too quick for him out here. It wasn't. This is more his style. And he's up against Francis Tiafoe, and it's minus 112 the pair. It's a pick-and match with Bet Rivers. Now, if you had showed me those odds 2 weeks ago, I would have thought that Francis Tiafoe was one of the best bets of the year at minus 112. But the head-to-head here is very much in favour of Jenson-Brooksby. 3-0, the head-to-head. Met 3 times. 3 times Brooksby's won, including the match in Houston in 2025. And every single match, Brooksby has won 2 sets to love. We're talking the 2 sets to love trend here. Minus 112 the pair, 22.5 the games. 2-0 Brooksby is 2-1. 2-0 Tiafoe is 2-1. Are we going with the head-to-head? Are we going with the trends, or are we going with the Francis Tiafoe? Is in a bit of form, but we're hoping for him to show his class here at what could look a genuinely good price. Yeah,
I think if you're going on the head-to-head, which I think I'll have to here, you'd be all in on Brooksby as a slight underdog. Again, the odds have moved since I've written this. They're kind of joint favourites now, but yeah, you would be all in. It just looks a very tough opener for the seed with Brooksby obviously having played that one match already. I mean, their head-to-head is overwhelming. Service points won and return points won totals 115 to 85 in favour of Brooksby. Brooksby, bearing in mind he's not the strongest server by any means, has held his serve 90% of the time against Francis Tiafoe. And Brooksby's won 45% of return points against what is a bigger server in Tiafoe. And a couple of those matches were played in quick conditions, winning 45% of return points. Brooksby also winning 71% of second serve points against 43% for Tiafoe. Huge difference. So much better in all areas Brooksby's been in those 3 matches. as I said, 2 of them were quick conditions. Atlanta, where it was very hot and quick. Washington, D.C., also very hot, very quick. Obviously slightly slower in Houston on the clay, but that isn't slow clay by any means in Houston. It's slightly different to the European clay. But Tiafoe always puts in 100% in Houston. You can't always say that about Tiafoe. Doesn't always put it in, or hasn't over the years in certain tournaments, but in Houston he does, and Brooksby beat him in the final there. The other factor is Tiafoe's coming off a really physical week in Acapulco. He put some real hard yards in there, particularly against Nakashima and Cobolli as well in the final. So he's probably going to be a little bit leggy. What concerns me about betting Brooksby here is that Tiafoe will not. He'll be very aware of the 0-3 record, and he'll be very keen to put that right and not go 0-4 against Brooksby. But wanting to do it and being able to do it, 2 different things. I think it'll take a massive effort from Tiafoe in these circumstances, coming off that Acapulco final and everything that's gone on there, a little bit of illness and stuff. And if we look at Indian Wells records, Brooksby obviously enjoys the conditions here. 70% win rate of this tournament, service points won and return points won, total of 103.4. Very, very impressive indeed from Jenson, Brooksby, and Tiafoe just a 53% win rate and a total of 100.5. And again, some surprising stats. Brooksby's actually held serve more often in Indian Wells than Tiafoe has. Brooksby's held serve 82% of the time at this tournament, just 77% for Tiafoe. He has been hit and miss here, Tiafoe. He's had some good years, some poor years. Last year he lost to Watanuki. Obviously a poor defeat there, and he has been very hit and miss at this tournament. So it's just going to be a half a point, because I am concerned that Tiafoe is going to be absolutely desperate to overturn that head-to-head, but I think you can't overlook what's the 2 factors, the career series and the fact that Jenson Brooksby plays really, really well in this tournament, and throw in the fact that he's had a match and Tiafoe hasn't. It just points to a little bit of an interest on Brooksby, half a point on the money line, -112 for Bet Rivers.
Yeah, half a point, -112. I think that's a very important factor that, as you say there, when players have actually had the advantage of playing in conditions like this where it's changeable. I think it's a very big factor. Remember, the Betting Weekly 5th major bonus bet. Tennis fans know that Indian Wells is the 5th major, and Bet Rivers is giving bettors a bonus swing for the event. Bettors in New York or New Jersey can take advantage of our 5th major bonus bet from Betting Weekly. All you have to do is enter the bonus code BW32 in your Bet Rivers app to receive a $10 bonus bet to use on the Indian Wells BNP Paribas Open. That code again is BW32, and it's available to Bet Rivers bettors in New York and New Jersey. The offer ends on March 15th. Must be 21, eligible players only. Gambling problem, call 1-800-GAMBLER. In New York, call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY. We have 2 more games to quickly run through. The next match is the match between Flavio Cobolli and Miomir Kecmanovic. 1-1 the head-to-head here between these 2 players. No surprise, Bet Rivers can hardly separate them. Flavio Cobolli -103, Kecmanovic -122. Spread half, total 22.5. Last time they met was literally last week in Acapulco, where Cobolli won 2-1. Really like it, Sean?
Yeah, I like Kecmanovic here. Again, just a little bit annoyed that the odds have moved slightly in the last sort of hour or so, which is often happens. Unfortunately, when we do the show, sometimes the odds do move. It's very difficult, as I talked about with Tiafoe. It's always tough to come from energy sapping conditions in Acapulco, where Cobolli obviously won the title, beating Tiafoe in that final. And it's a massive effort for him the way Cobolli plays. He doesn't win too many matches that easily. It's often a physical battle with him. He's got to come from there to obviously different conditions in Indian Wells and conditions he's yet to perform in, really. Prior to that, Cobolli also went to the semi-finals in Delray Beach the week before, so he may well be a bit leggy here, Cobolli. As you said, the pair met in the semis in Acapulco, and Cobolli did obviously edge it in a final set, but it was yet another of those matches that Kecmanovic should have won and ended up losing it in a decider. He actually led that match 3-1 in the final set. He had a better performance rating of 7.8 versus 7.5. He led the service points won and return points won totals 104-96 and lost, which is not unusual at all for Kecmanovic. It's a bad habit that he's had his whole career, actually. He's actually managed to win slightly more deciding sets this year. He's won 3 of the 8 he's played. It could be worth betting the 2-0 here, given the trends and given the possible fatigue about Cobolli, because Cobolli is yet to win a match at Indian Wells. He lost to Colton Smith here last year as presumably quite a big favourite. Lost to Roberto Carballes Baena here the year before, so he's 0-2 at Indian Wells. Kecmanovic has a good record here. I think he's made the quarterfinals. I think he's made it twice. I think he made the quarters as a qualifier or a lucky loser 1 year. So looking at their Indian Wells record, Kecmanovic 57% win rate, service points won and return points won, total of 102. So he's very comfortable with the conditions here and has had success here. Cobolli obviously a 0% win rate and a total of 92 in the 2 matches that he's played. So it's a tournament that Cobolli has yet to get any sort of a grips with. Kecmanovic has obviously had 1 match to get attuned to the conditions. It's only half a match actually, because Daniel Altmaier ended up retiring, I think, in the second set. But it's still an advantage to have played a match in match conditions. Got yourself used to these unique conditions here. So there's a lot to like about Kecmanovic, and therefore I'm not surprised that the money's come in for him. I'm tempted with the 2-0. It is at the bottom end now of the odds that I would accept, -122. I wouldn't go any lower than that, that's for sure. But I'll stick with the money line. 1 point on Kecmanovic, but I wouldn't put anybody off taking a punt on 2-0 here.
Yeah, -122, Kecmanovic, +180. Head across to the Bet Rivers app. Download the app. You'll be able to live stream these matches as well. We don't know the order of play just yet, but we'll know them over the course of the evening. You'll be able to watch those matches progress on the Bet Rivers app. Our final match is a match between Khachanov and João Fonseca, -112 the pair. Pick them again in another match. It's 22.5 the totals, 3-0. It's 20.5. 58 different markets available in this match. And you know what, Sean? When you sent me the bets through, I just thought I've got to have a few quid on Fonseca here. I just thought that Khachanov, what he's come through to get there, the emotional feelings he's been having over here in Dubai, getting across to Oman, getting across to Istanbul, getting across to Indian Wells. I mean, he's courageous at the best, and I don't know how he can focus on a tennis match, because I certainly can't focus on much going on here. And I think Fonseca, I know he's going on a private jet and things like that, but I think Fonseca at -112, what an opportunity for him. Hopefully you'll agree with me rather than going with Khachanov.
Yeah, I do agree with you. I mean, again, this has moved a little bit since I looked at it earlier. He was, I wouldn't say clear favourite, Khachanov, but he was certainly favourite. I'm not surprised the market's had a bit of a rebase here, because, as you said, he's one of the players that has struggled to get to Indian Wells. He only left to fly to LA yesterday. And obviously the time difference between Dubai and Indian Wells is huge. It's 12 hours. So jet lag is an obvious issue. Plus all the stress that you mentioned of trying to get out of Dubai and all the rest of it that we've talked about. And, Fonseca has been here for several days. He came to Indian Wells after a confidence-boosting win. They played an exhibition tournament. Some very good players in there, Casper Ruud and Apelka and all these guys. And Fonseca won that exhibition in Vegas, obviously not very far at all from Indian Wells. Now he's come to Indian Wells, had a hit, relaxed, confident, won his first match here against Collignon, who's always a tough player. So he's clearly going to be far better attuned to the conditions than Khachanov. And the other factor is the only time they did meet, which was in Paris at the end of last year, Fonseca was not in a good physical condition at all. It was in Paris in October. Just a couple of days, 2 or 3 days after Fonseca had actually won the title in Basel. He actually played the Basel final on the Sunday, Fonseca. 2 days later, he played Shapovalov in Paris at a match that I watched in Bercy. During that match with Shapovalov, he had a medical timeout for a hip problem. He was certainly looking a bit bedraggled in that match. Ended up winning it. Shapovalov wasn't in the best condition either. Ended up winning it. Then he had to play Khachanov the next day and lost it in 3 sets. And it should also be noted, by the way, that Khachanov had breathing issues that day, certainly towards the start of that match and the middle of that match. But he was much fresher. Khachanov, Fonseca was struggling with his fitness, with his energy levels, with his body. So I wouldn't put too much store in that particular result. And then we move on to Indian Wells records. Khachanav's never done that well here. He's lost 5 of his last 7 matches at this tournament. He's only got a 50% win rate in the main draw here. His best ever finish is 1 quarter-final. Never done any better than that. Fonseca obviously has limited stats at this tournament, but he's got a 67% win rate and a service points won and return points won total of 103. So he's started well, and you would think the conditions would suit him here. Slower, higher bouncing, kind of clay-like almost, and he's obviously way more attuned to the conditions. So I just think, all told, if you put all that together, I just think it's a big ask for Khachanov to win this, certainly as favourite as he was. Again, I'll just take off a point because we are guessing. Sometimes with these players, when they go through these things, it kind of galvanizes them, which is kind of what I'm slightly worried about. But I think the obvious bet here is to take Fonseca. This could turn out to be a very good price in the end. He's obviously being bet. I can see why he's being bet. So yeah, half a point on the money line for Fonseca for me here.
I genuinely think Fonseca will start around about -125 for this match. I really do. Because
he might do, yeah.
He made that move. Khachanov made that move from Dubai. He got the car across to Oman. It doesn't matter who you are. You could be the number 25 tennis player in the world or Joe Bloggs. You've got to get across that desert to get to a strange country, get through passport control, wait for a flight, not in a private jet, wait for Satan Istanbul. But that the emotion out here, I think Fonseca will bet. And I agree with you that it does galvanise. I suppose these Russian players are sort of like, they're built differently, aren't they? If anyone's going to get through it, Khachanov, Rublev, Medvedev, Djokovic, they're the kind of players who are built for this kind of thing. But I do think that Fonseca -112 will be a price that I'm not saying he's going to win, and there's logic why you think he's going to win, but I think you'll be holding a very decent price ticket. I think he'll be -125 because the public perception will want to get with João Fonseca to win this match. So, yep, Fonseca at -112. I was going to say I'm going to join you and make it a 1-point bet, but I just know if these Russian guys, if it was Jack Draper going across the desert, I think I'd have a 5-point bet. I'm not saying Jack Draper's not a hard individual, but I think the Russians are built slightly different to us Brits. So that would be my advice. But João Fonseca at -112 is our bet. That remember that Indian Wells offer that we have with Bet Rivers as well. Remember all the content coming your way here on the Betting Weekly Studios at 11 o'clock Eastern Time every day, Monday through to Friday. Betting Weekly live with all the European team. Thursday and Friday now throughout the month of March through the tournaments in Indian Wells and in Miami. We have Mitch and Dustin on Betting Weekly Tennis Live, and at 4 p.m. Eastern Time we have the American crew of Mike and Doug breaking all down the best bets on the day's action stateside as well. Sean will be joining me again tomorrow here on Betting Weekly Game Bet Match, and on Saturday, hopefully I won't be here to speak to Tim on Betting Weekly WTA. If not, he will be joined hopefully by Roy João, and we'll have a little word in his ear to see if he can cover for me. If I'm hopefully, I'll be flying back home to the UK. But anyway, take care, be safe, and Sean, I'll speak to you again tomorrow, mate. Take care.